This is what we do, Granny. Okay, let's see, who do we have here? Dieter? Oh no, that's the other group, of course. Switch places with. Give me one name so I can quickly search.
Alexander.
Alexander.
Verkoeien.
Verkoeien, I think that we're going to find Verkoeien quicker. Niet gevonden.
Verkouylle.
Okay, and now slowly and in English.
Verkou.
Yeah, I've got you. It's okay. I went for the C for Verkoeien. Good. Then I need a Bruno, a Simon, and Peter. Floor is yours, gentlemen.
Welcome, Peter, Bruno, and Alexander. We are here today to discuss our paper presentation. Last time we met at my house, we discussed the main structure of our paper. What should we focus on today?
I think we should focus on the paper today. The presentation should be complementary to the paper anyhow.
Well, that's just the way I was thinking. I think elaborating on the content and structure of the paper should be the main goal today.
Yes, I agree completely with Peter right now.
Yes, I agree with you too. So let's focus on the paper. We divided the paper in three big parts. First, the brief history of Enron. Second, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. And three, a good example of a company that respects business ethics.
Well, sorry to interrupt you here, but I think I have to put this straight away. I have to admit I didn't manage to find many sources, valuable sources about Toyota as a leading example of corporate governance. And instead, I would like to bring up an alternative. As you already know, I blogged about California energy crisis, which was also analyzed in the documentary The Smartest Guys in the Room. So I really do believe that this phony energy crisis is a good example, is a good illustration of Enron's lack of business ethics. So what do you think?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay. Personally, I think this specific topic can also, maybe it can even better be used in our presentation in a couple of weeks later, because I think it gives a clear picture of how far the Enron executives would go in order to maximize their profits, and also it shows their attitude towards the business ethics of their company.
I think you're both right. We should mention it in the presentation, but definitely also in the paper, because it's really a good example of their lack of respect for business ethics.
Okay, let's end on the subject and move on. We can add the California energy crisis to the brief history of Enron, because it's a good example of what went wrong with the business ethics. Now we can move on to our second topic of our paper. That was the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Bruno, Alexander, what have you found about that?
Well, I was browsing the internet. I found different things, but I also learned that a lot of people disliked the Sarbanes-Oxley Act because they said it was too costly, too much effort. But yeah, I don't want to go into the specifics right now.
I also tried to find some articles, mainly science articles, on sciencedirect.com. But there are really loads of it, so, and I don't really know if we should focus on the content of the act or we should focus on the effects of it.
May I come in here?
What do you think?
In the paper, I would certainly write about what it's about, but I would also mainly focus on the effects of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act.
Well, again, I don't know if I should restrict this topic to the paper, because I think it's our main topic here, and I should also include it in our presentation again. So,
I don't share your view on that, Bruno. I think we should describe the effects in the paper and not the content, because the content, they are just rules and we would only copy them.
I think I go along with you on that, Alexander. And I was just thinking, shouldn't we mention Code Buys and Code Weapons as well, which are in fact Belgian spin-offs of the so-called Sarbanes-Oxley law in the US?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I read a book about the Leonard and Hospi disaster, and it's very similar to Enron, so it would add great value to
yes.
our paper.
I agree. I think it's good to mention it in the paper. I think we can also end this subject now. We can talk about the effects and what is Sarbanes-Oxley in the Sarbanes-Oxley part of the paper. Now we can move to our third and maybe most important point of the paper, and that's what lessons have you learned from Enron? Does anyone have an idea how we can introduce this topic?
Well, in my quest to find some useful information about Toyota, I stumbled upon an article about Toyota's sticking gas pedals, which you all have heard about, I suppose. So in that very article, the authors offer some critical lessons from Toyota's case, and I immediately made the link with Enron's story. And I distinguished three main similarities. So, one, aggressive growth leads to unmanageable risk. Two, good risk management is all about asking the right questions. So, what did you know and when did you know it? And thirdly, accepting responsibility for what went wrong in your company. So, would that be a good idea to
That's
include?
good job, Peter. I think we definitely should mention those three lessons in our paper, and maybe it's just an idea, but each time bring up what went wrong with Enron, and maybe also give an example of a company that took lessons from the Enron history.
So make it more specific. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea as well, because I don't think our paper should be too complicated. I think it should be rather concrete and easy to understand, because we're not dealing with the more advanced English speakers here. So.
Yes, you're right, but that's more discussion about the presentation. I would leave that for another time, for the next time. I think we can conclude now. We can agree that our paper will consist of in three big topics. First, the brief history. Second, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. And the three big lessons. So, managing risks, aggressive growth, and responsibility.
Yes.
So, now, when can we meet again? When have you free time?
Maybe next week, Monday.
Yeah, yes, as usual.
Okay, that's fine for me. Okay, see you next time. Thanks for coming.
Okay. Let me just switch this one off.